right, I think this should be coming through live in just a second, guys. I'm just going to make sure this is all working. And it looks like we're away. I'm going to take questions from everyone at the end as well. And yeah, let's get into it. Fantastic. All right, so what happened today? We've obviously seen Matic have a big dump. So we're going to talk about what led to this initial increase of, depending when you got in, up to 250%, and talk about what happened thereafter. And again, depending where you shorted, you could have made somewhere around 70+% there as well. So we're going to talk about the fundamentals, the technicals, the sentiment. That's our strategy. We try and tie it all together. I'm going to talk about what different types of coins, the characteristics that allow something like this to happen, all the margin trading that takes place these days, how to take profits, why people are getting hurt and sucked into this sort of stuff. And hopefully there's a lot of lessons that we can take away from this. So guys, I will have a quick look through the chat at the end, like I always do, and try and answer all your questions. But if you can, hit that like button, share this video around, and I do love it when you guys are all tuning in, saying thank you, and getting those comments going. So hey Glenn, Moonboy, David, Robbo, Mick, Will, great to see you guys jumping in first. And I want to start off by saying I know this sucks when something like this happens. And whenever there's traders that make money shorting, there's always those investors that have lost money. So we've got over 100 watching now, guys. Thanks for joining us at 8 o'clock. So let's get into it. So the other day, I did tweet out that I thought there were signs of a top. And we'll get into the technicals a little bit more in just a second. But if you've been through a full market cycle now, which a lot of you have, you're starting to learn how this all works. And hopefully, if you're starting to learn how to trade as well, you can know how to take advantage of this as an investor as well as a trader. So what is Matic? Matic's actually a project that has some pretty good technicals and technology behind it. So let's look through this white paper here. I'm not going to run through it all now, but if you actually do look through the white paper here, there's some great detail. It's broken down into everything they do. And basically, they're an Ethereum scaling solution using Plasma, similar to Amisa Go and a few other projects now that have gone down this path as well. On their roadmap, they've been developing fairly well, getting updates out, getting towards mainnet with their beta release and all that. So it's not as if this is a project that's been a purely pump and dump small coin. There is some sort of, good progress being made, a decent team there, and there are a few things to like about it. So let's get into why and how this can still happen. So to start off with, as I just mentioned before, one of the things that we focus on, we've created a bit of a checklist. It's the fundamental analysis, the technical analysis, and the sentiment. And within each of those, there's probably a dozen things that we want to look through to get a feel for whether or not this is an investment, a trade, or something to avoid with red flags and whatnot. Now, I know a lot of people don't have time to do all that as well, so we are trying to do 5 fundamental analyses each month for you guys to save you time as well. But hopefully by now, everything that we've spoken about over the years, you're starting to get a feel for what you should avoid and whatnot. So look, today, it wasn't just Matic that fell hard. There was a number of alts, but it was definitely those IEOs on Binance that did get hurt. And one of my messages on the channel has been that I actually was avoiding the IEOs other than if you think you're a trader and you can get a quick flip out of them. And the main reason behind that was there's, the token release schedule here. And one of the first things I said about these IEOs when they came out on Binance was some of them were doing as low as 6%, 10%. That was all of the tokens that they were selling. So everyone used to get up in arms when an ICO would only sell 50% of their tokens and the team would keep 50%. Well, look at the release schedules. If you actually took the time to read the white paper and these details on the Binance site when they started doing the fundraising, you can think of this as on these platforms, on the exchanges, instead of just purely an ICO through a smart contract. So as you can see, a pretty low schedule. And then we get to August here, September, October, and we have a fair jump from around, let's call that around 30% to over 40%. So a pretty big jump in tokens there, and a lot of people were completely unaware that this happened. And there is also a lot of hype and a lot of traders starting to get on around this time. So whether or not that's coincidence, I'm not sure, but crypto is certainly the Wild West. And I think a lot of people are completely unaware of these token unlock schedules. The other thing I just want to mention is all these IOs, they've got a lot of money. They're on the big exchanges. They pay for promotion and awareness. Now, some people think that this is purely a bad thing and shilling. Obviously, I've never covered any of those IOs or taken money from them. I just didn't think that this was sustainable long term. I thought it was going to end up like ICOs at some stage or another. And we get a lot of people. Now, I'm not picking on this guy. I've got no idea if he's a good or bad channel, but titles like why Matic might go to $4 and, Superman and others covering it there. So look, people are allowed to make money. They're YouTubers. They always encourage you to do your own research, but we know that there's a lot of eyeballs out there. So I guess I'm trying to say that it's not a hidden gem. It's certainly something that's been pushed out there pretty widely, trying to get people aware of it, and obviously try to invest in it and raise funds as well. Now, at the same time, I'm not sure of the relationship here, whether this is part of their paid marketing as well. But when there's the most read Cointelegraphs of the world, this is only a week or two ago. Matic's up 100% in 10 days. Why Binance IEOs are pumping. It just sort of adds to the momentum, like we saw the mainstream media when Bitcoin and all the altcoins were going back in the day. This just adds to that FOMO and whatnot. Another news site here claiming that these Binance IEOs could do 1,000x returns. And I mean, again, I don't say anything bad about these individuals. Maybe they're great. They're great and responsible normally with their material, and they're just quoting other people. I'm not exactly sure, but I definitely think that people can get overexcited and forget to do their own research when they're just reading titles and seeing these figures. So that brings us to what happened more recently. And I did a detailed rundown of this a couple of days ago in our group. I'm always cautious when things go parabolic, and I didn't actually think that Matic had the fundamentals to back it up, like something Synthetics or Engine. These projects that have actually got a lot of traction. They didn't spend a lot of money. They didn't do an IEO. It hasn't been really widely shielded all over YouTube and news sites. So Engine have now partnered with Microsoft. Synthetics are number 2 on the DeFi. So when something has a parabolic move, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, was that justified? And if the token price fell 60, 70%, would I still be happy holding it? Do I believe in this, no matter what the price is, to actually believe in what they're doing longer term? And if some of you have done that level of research for Matic and you're still happy with it, that's fine as well. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad project, but we've got to explain what happened today. So I gave it an example here of something that I thought might happen. You can set your stop loss here. I know some people said they copied this trade idea exactly. No matter how many times I say do your own research, make this trade suit your own style. You can think of this as a scalp or a longer term swing trade, depending on what sort of margin you like using. But personally, I was looking for these signs of divergence, maybe one more leg up. I thought something like this might be on the cards, and then I think a big dump was in action because it's simply gone too far too fast. And as I commented on the next day, I was waiting to see if we can get one more leg higher, and it didn't quite break down yet. And if you actually look at the chart on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that this is where I thought it was initially going to break down, and we didn't quite get that. And so I know a few people got stopped out here, but again, if you wake up the next day and you look at the chart, you can redo your analysis and think, well, hold on, we've now got divergence on the 4-hour time frame. So when the RSI, the strength is getting weaker and weaker, but price is trending higher and higher, that is what we call that divergence, and that is a big opportunity there. So we had it on everything, I think, from the 1-hour time frame. We've got that divergence there with it. Grab that line there for you guys. No, it's not gonna let me do that. No, okay. Anyway, you can see the divergence with the RSI losing its strength as price continues to go higher. And the main thing is that we're really running out of volume. So let's just go back a little bit. And you can see that throughout this big rally, generally, particularly towards the end here, volume was just dropping off a bit. And now that's all made to look very insignificant because of the huge candle we've had here. So tying this all together, I think the thing that really started this sell-off, the pricked the bubble or the run-up, was a lot of traders and trading on margin were getting long this one, and then we saw this big sell wall appear. So a 300 and a 1,600 Bitcoin sell wall around 43. 436 there, just sitting above the current price that it got to. So when people see those huge walls, they start to get worried. And if you're in a trade and you've made good profit and something's run up, this far, hundreds of percent, you're probably going to take profit. And then the flip side is we've got a lot of people with their stop losses just sitting under here. So for example, I did this tutorial about how to use FTX, where I like to do a lot of my trading now. And a lot of people use these trailing stops, for example. So whether it's a stop loss, a stop limit, a trailing stop, once everyone's trading on margin, and you can trade big margin. I know Binance offer, I think, 5 times margin on a lot of these coins. FTX offer even higher margin. And unfortunately, there's not always a lot of liquidity there. So once that cascade of selling starts, a lot of traders pull their orders. So recently I did a video about bots and high frequency trading, and how there's a little bit of that in crypto where people buying back and forward, not necessarily wash trading, but just bots executing different strategies. But when something big and nasty happens, they all sort of withdraw their order or they get out of the market. And all of a sudden, all the orders that you might see on the order book, they go, and there's just not the liquidity there. So Coin Paprika is an alternative to Coin Market Cap. So when we see something like this, I'm not sure how big that is, if you guys can quite read that. But basically what they're saying is the combined order volume and the 24-hour volume here. And if we go to what happened today, basically there's something like $60 or $80 million traded. But if you have to look at the combined order books of all the buys and sells, there's something like $6 million of orders. So 10 times more volume than actual orders taking place. And this is because of that margin trading. So it really does show you how quickly things can fall. Now, no matter how many times you say do your own research, learn to trade, do a course, don't trade, or particularly on margin if you don't know what you're doing, we continue to get the sort of people that get sucked in to the margin trading, into these markets, that don't understand. So, not picking on this guy, but Binance is saying that it's only down 65%. Shouldn't it be saying it's down 280% because it went up 280%? And people just don't understand the very, very basic stuff of mathematics and margin. So until you have your head around all that, don't become a victim. You will lose money. And I certainly think you can make money trading, but you need to learn what you're doing. And the majority of people lose because they haven't learned what they're doing. So after all this happens, there's a lot of emotion and people start throwing around accusations, and the Matic Foundation, their address got posted publicly and tagged and whatnot. So this is the Matic Foundation contract, and you can see that there's a lot of coins that have been going out in the past few weeks. I think the biggest one here was 60 million Matic 19 days ago. So lots and lots of coins have been going out, and people going, it's the Matic team dumping. But once again, if you've been doing your research and following the project, you'll know that they said this was happening, and the token unlock schedule I spoke about before. This isn't something that they were hiding. This is something that they told you was going to happen in October, and that they were going to be using a lot of that for staking activities. So when we start to see these tweets being thrown around, $1.5 billion Matic, 15% of the total supply, worth $70 million in the past 50 days, and it's all been gone to Binance to dump, people just get really scared and angry. And then obviously this guy has come out a few hours later and said, apologies, I miscalculated. It was 3% of the supply. It looks like the team said they were going to be doing this. Sandeep, who is the COO of Matic, again coming out, and people trying to calm everyone, present the other side of the story. And then obviously just a few minutes ago, they put out their announcement saying that this is all FUD and whatnot. So look, always the truth lies somewhere in the middle. CZ coming out and saying that this has got nothing to do with the Matic team, but the Matic team saying that yes, we have been moving some. A few of them have gone to an exchange. Now, a lot of them haven't, and they're saying that they've been used for staking, and the team have just moved them to out of the contract and into another lockup period where the team are still holding a lot of these coins. So there's obviously some form of selling going on. Now, what percentage was from the team, was from traders, was from liquidation, whales and early investors, we just don't know. We don't have all that on-chain data because the trading on Binance and FTX, that happens on their trading engines. So what happens now? Well, I'd love for there to be more options in these worlds. At the moment, we've only got Deribit that are letting you do options with Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've heard that FTX are going to be bringing out options soon as well. But what this allows you to do is protect yourself from things happening like this. This is why people on the stock market world buy insurance. They buy options in case something like this happens. You can protect from losses, from things that are extremely unlikely. And if you don't think this is going to bounce back up, you can start to sell options. So these are the options that I've been looking at lately. Something like maybe buying the $10,000 option. I can do that for June 2020 after the halving. At the moment, that's only going to cost me around $900 to have the option to buy Bitcoin for $10,000. So these are the sort of ways you can play around, and I've done a lot of education around options trading in our group as well. So I hope you guys have learned a lot from that, particularly the other IEOs. If you're holding some of these and you didn't know about this token release schedule, please go and look at that. Please be cautious with your margin trading, learn how to do so or whatnot. If you want more information on any of that stuff we do, obviously head over to nuggetsnews.com.au. But I will have a quick look through the chat and your questions. But I think the most likely scenario now is that we are going to chop around a little bit in a bit of an equilibrium pattern, because after we have such a big move down, there's always people that are trapped, that didn't have stop losses, and any sort of bounce we get, they're looking to sell because they're so far underwater. There's a percent of people that even if the team did nothing wrong, they've lost trust. So whether that's reasonable, justified, you can't change other people's opinions. That's just a matter of fact. When things like this happen, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look for Binance. Overall, some people argue, have they done more good than bad for the community? But I'll have a look through the comments now. But that's it for basically as much as I want to say about Matic tonight, guys. All right, so some people did short and make money. That is awesome if you guys did. I haven't shared my position around Hex token yet. I want to get Richard on and ask him some hard questions about that as well. Centralized exchanges doing full on wash trading, lack of liquidity. Yeah, I did touch on that already. Episode on scams was a much watched. Thank you for that, Samuel. Yeah, someone's saying about the scheduled release of tokens. Why are you called Nugget? Well, there's a few reasons, I think. Hopefully we're giving you some good nuggets of information. I've got a little gold nugget, lucky gold nugget. I'm a big fan of gold, as you guys know as well. And that was my nickname in high school. I was a little bit short when I was growing up. A late bloomer maybe, so I was a little bit nuggety as well. Some people say they don't like that name. It's not professional. We need a new name if we're going to turn into a... I just love getting interesting people on. I know you guys love those interviews too. So some sort of, the Joe Rogan style, when we get on awesome guests and just talk about really interesting things. Some people say you'll never be able to achieve that with Nuggets News. I'm not sure. No one complains when it does the opposite. Yeah, that's really important. And you have to remember who's on the other side of the screen. So when something like this happens and everyone in their app, in their hardware wallet, on the exchange, they're all thinking all that Matic I bought is worth, 4 cents. Now that's all on paper. That's all just a number on the screen. Who's on the other side of the screen when you go to sell that? And if it's gone up tenfold, there's got to be 10 times as many people that invested as you, and you've got to be selling to 10 other people to spread out, all those profits, to make it real. And that's where crypto becomes hard, with realizing profits. And it's probably something I'm going to do more detailed analysis and education on, because when things get busy, when things get hectic, people always panic and they don't have a plan to sell. It's something that you need to be prepared for. Nugget, do you know what happened about AgriChain? Kale put out another update yesterday. They said they've had some a big ag company in the US, I believe, invest a large amount of money into them to give them another 2 years runway or something. So some good news there. But he said he's putting out a detailed update soon. Richard's going to interrupt you before you finish your questions. Wouldn't bother. Well, hopefully with my style and trying to keep calm and spell out the questions, and a lot of people that have had him on, Pete McCormack, nice guy, good podcast, but when you don't understand technicalities of what's going on, it's really hard to ask nice questions and get the truth out. And I don't think he did that very well. So that's what I'm going to try and achieve. Matic are having an AMA, I think as well, guys, soon. View on the current price of altcoins coming down. Look, whenever this stuff happens, it's not good for the whole space. People laugh at us. People laugh at this community. There's all the infighting, altcoins, pump and dumps. We're doing everything wrong, particularly the toxicity and the maximalists and the tribalism. There's no way, guys, that we're ever going to be heading towards new all-time highs for all these coins, even for some of the good projects, until we start to get a positive vibe and heading in the right direction. And hopefully things like crypto Twitter become just so irrelevant to everything that's happening in the real world, and the good quality communities and Facebook groups and meetups in real life. All that stuff starts to outweigh all this negativity and toxicity. Mad Cow likes the Nuggets news name. No plans to change it anytime soon. That'd be a big effort to rebrand. Well, guys, I am going to wrap it up. I didn't want this to be a long one. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope some of you made some money. I hope none of you got burnt. If you did, learn from it. These are lifelong skills that you can acquire now. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, or 50. In 5 years' time, you could become a great trader, investor. Avoid these sort of issues. Learn how to read RSIs, divergences, price action, volume. We'll continue to do education on all that, and there's plenty of good courses that we recommend as well. As I said, head over to our website for more info on everything we do. But other than that, guys, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video around, and I will talk to you again soon. Cheers.